Hello friends, so in this video I'm going to give you a demonstration for the code to get the data from a PDF file to a Google spreadsheet. Okay, so I saw some of you have already seen my preview video. So basically here I have a folder, have some PDF files, okay, so some demos, so basically some invoices as you can see here, and I'd like to grab the invoice number and this balance, basically some values here we can get from these PDF files and put them back into a Google spreadsheet. Okay, so basically you can grab any text from this PDF. But as an example here, I'd like to grab the invoice number and the balance here. Okay, so let's get started. This is a project for the preview, so I'd like to create a new file and start it from scratch. Okay, building them step by step so you can follow. Okay, so I think the new file has been created. Let's rename this file first. I think it's number 7 now for this live coding project. Read data from PDF to Google Sheet. Okay. So here it looks like Google did some change to the spreadsheet. Now under the tools you don't have the script editor, and it was moved to here, okay, the extensions, and you can find the app script here. It's not a script editor anymore, it's called app script. So if you click on this button, it should bring you to the script project. Okay, I just found this change recently. Alright, so now I have this new project. Let's rename it to LC007. So you can pick a better name. I just want to record this index for my video. Okay, so this is so to do this job, okay, so to read the data from PDF to Google Sheet, so we need to do something here. All right, of course we need to do something. So the first thing we need to do here, basically we need to convert. All right, we need to convert the PDF to a document so that we can read the data from the. So basically we are not reading the data from the PDF directly. We are converting the PDF, okay, into Google Doc first. So this is the first step. Okay, and after we convert the data format, we can the second step, we can read the text from the Google Doc. And the third last step, you can export basically you can export the text from not export, I think you need to scrap, okay, because the data in some format from your PDF is not like in an Excel file. You have rows and columns. Okay, you can grab them very easily, like the value in B3 like that. So you need to use some skills like regular expression, something like that, to grab the data. Basically to scrap the data from this text. Okay, scrap the info from the text and output from the text and output to Google Sheet. So this output, you can output it anywhere you like. Okay, so in this example you just output to Google Sheet, but you also can do something else like email this information to somebody. So this is very convenient. So the output is not big a deal in this demo. Okay, so here I think the most important thing here is this step 1. You need to convert the PDF to Google Doc, and you read the data from this Google Doc, and this could be a very helpful information, and we can build it as a function so you can use it for other purpose. Okay, so let's do this job right now. So first of all, I'd like to convert this PDF to a Google Doc. Alright, so let's do this function first. So function convert PDF to doc. So this function we're going to take one parameter, which is going to be the ID of the PDF. Okay, so ID. So this is the first parameter we're going to use. This is ID. Let me think what else we need to do. Alright, so this function we're going to take. Basically, this function is to convert a PDF file into a Google Doc file. Alright, so this is the function we're going to do. We have a parameter here called ID, which is a string, the ID of the PDF file. Okay, and this file I'm going to return. So I'm going to return a Google Doc object. Okay, I think I'm going to return a document. Doc. Okay, I'm going to return a document doc object, the Google Doc object. So let's do it right now. So we have this ID here. So to do this conversion, we need to use a Google Advanced service. Okay, so we need to add the Drive API here. So this is an advanced Google service, which is called a Google Drive, I think. Let me check where I can find it. Google Drive. Okay, we need to use this Drive API, alright, which is right now in version 2. Let's add this API here. So after you add this advanced service Drive API here, we should be able to use it. Okay. So this is the ID of our PDF file, which is not assigned here, but is a parameter here in this function. So to convert this, so we need to use this Drive API and called files. We need to insert a file here. Alright, so this, as you can see here, let me open this documentation here for you. I cannot remember it. So if you do a search for Drive API, Google Drive API, I think it's V2. Drive API V2. Okay, we are using this document here. So let me show you something here. So here we have these files. Let me zoom in a little bit, and then we have here we have an insert function here to create a new file, right? So how can we convert a PDF file to a Google Doc? So in this API, it gives us a possibility to convert a PDF file to a Google Doc. So as you can see here, we have a parameter here called convert, which is a boolean. Okay, by default is false. Okay, so we need to enable this convert to true. All right, and we also need to use this ORC. Okay, so basically, so for this ORC, it's going to read the text file on your PDF. Okay, and here is the ORC language. So we may need to add a language parameter here for the ORC. So for a parameter, so just in case we need to convert something else, let's do it like here. So by default, let's set up to English. Okay, so if you have another language, you need to change this parameter here. So by default, we would like to use this so we assume the content in your PDF file is English. Okay, so that's the second parameter. So let's do it like this. We need to convert, add this parameter convert and the ORC to true, and this ORC language. Okay, so basically I think that we're going to be enough parameters for us to use. Okay, so how can we do that? Insert, let's check resource. We need to resource media, and optional we are using the third configuration is resource, and media data, which is a blob, and option object, optional argument, which is going to be our convert or something like that. So we're going to have a resource, right? I think it's going to be an object, and then we're going to have media data, which is going to be a blob. So this blob we're going to get it from this drive app API, get file by ID, which is going to be this ID, right? And I'm going to get a blob, get the file blob from this ID, right? From this file. So this is the blob, and I'm going to have some optional argument called options. Okay, so for this option we're going to take some parameters from this list. So convert, let's copy this, let's change it to true, and the org, change it to true, and put this language here. So by default is English, I think. So by default, let me check. Alright, because we set a default value here because as English. So this, let's pass this resource here, and let's get the media data here, and let's put the option here. And for this media, sorry, not for the media, for this resource type, let me check what data I'd like to use here. For the resource, something, let me try it. I don't remember what kind of data I'd like to get here. So I think I need to have a title here. It's going to be, actually let me get a file here, const PDF equal to drive app, get file by ID, drive app dot get file by ID. This is ID, and PDF, get name, and I think it's called min typo, and also get PDF or get, I think this is a resource we need to get, and we can replace this with the PDF. Okay, so and we can put this in a new file. Okay, because it's going to insert a new file on your Google Drive, and we can open this with because we're going to return Google Doc. Okay, so let's just return this as a document, open by ID, new file, forget ID, I think it's ID. Okay, so let's run some tests. Let's grab a PDF file, and let's get the ID of this file. Get the link. So this is the ID of your file. Okay. Grab the file. Let's grab the file, and no, sorry, not the file. And let's test it here. So because we're going to read the text from the Google Doc, so let's try to make a function called read text from PDF. I called it read file from PDF because we're going to PDF. So here we're going to have ID, which is going to be ID of the. Let's don't get the ID here. Let's call this function right now. I will change it later. So we have a test ID here, right? We just copied from our PDF file. Okay, we have this ID, and we can get the doc with this function convert PDF to ID, right? Remember? So let's try to call this function here, and let's try to do a console.log get name or get URL. Alright, so we can get get a URL to this file. So let's try to test if this is working or not. I'm not sure if this can work right now. So this is the first time to run this script, so I'm going to ask you for the authorization in case you don't know that. Not sure if any errors here. Okay, it looks like no error. And if I open this URL in my browser, I think we should have this Google Doc. As you can see, the name is exactly the same. And as you can see here, this file is now converted to so the PDF file is converted to a Google document. Now I think I can add it. Yes, I can add it now. As you can see, I can do some change, right? So that means the first function is now working, right? We can convert a PDF file to a Google document. And here, since we have got this Google document from this function, right? We have this Google Doc, and then we can get the text content from this doc, right? And I'd like to give this read text from PDF, and I'd like to pass the parameters here, and let's say delete or trash doc file. So basically, after you convert the PDF to a Google Doc, and you read the text data from that Google Doc, and maybe you don't need to keep that Google Doc anymore, so you need to move this document to a trash. Okay, basically delete them from your Google Drive, right? So that's just in case you need to do that. So I put it here by default is true. So if you'd like to keep it, you can change these parameters to false. Okay, I'm going to keep the file for you. So here, and I'm going to get the text from this Google Doc. Okay, the text is going to be the doc.get body get text. Okay, so this is going to get the text from this Google Doc body, and if trash doc file, I'm going to drive app API dot get file by ID. Remember the ID. This is going to be the ID, and set trash. So basically, you don't need this if function here, because this parameter is actually a true boolean, so it could be a trash. You guys can see trash. Actually, let's change it to trash. So trash.file. If it's true, we're going to set it to trash. Going to delete it. And finally, going to return this text. Okay. So read text from PDF, and I need to get rid of this. Let's get rid of this ID, and I'm going to pass ID here. Alright. So this function, we're going to read read a text file, read the text from the PDF file. Okay. So finally, let's try this function here. So let's say this function is going to read data from PDF. Actually, not read data, but I'm going to export to sheet. Okay, here we have a file. Right now we can have an ID of this file, right? So this is the ID of the PDF file we are testing here, and then we can get the text. So const text is going to be read text from PDF. So we're going to take an ID and trash document. Let's keep it as default. The default value is true, so we're going to delete the original document. So here I have so this function is going to read text content from the PDF file. Okay, and the second one, the first parameter is going to be a string, which is going to be the ID of the PDF file, and the second parameter, which is going to be a boolean, and delete or keep the Google Doc. And so this function is going to return text, okay, not text string, the text content on the PDF file. Alright, so this is a function, but this is about the second function, okay. So this one here, I'm going to export the PDF to Google Sheet. Okay, so I'm testing here, so I have got the test, and then let's console.log load this text here. So let me check this text can be grabbed. Last function here. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the data from that invoice, and so after you get this text, and you can do a lot of stuff. Okay, you can send this as an email, but in this example here, I'd like to grab this ID, invoice number, right, and I'd like to get this balance due and this number. So you have a multiple way to do that in JavaScript, but the stupidest way, I think, in my head right now is to split all of these rows. As you can see, there are lines of they are separated by new lines characters, right? This is a line and this is a line. So this is the fourth line. If I split them with a line, so going to be the third position. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3. So you can have a lot of ways in JavaScript to grab the data from this string. Okay, so let me show you. Okay, so now we have this text, and we can design what kind of data we'd like to output, okay, to the spreadsheet. So we can design it here. So what kind of data we'd like to export. So the first one is the invoice number, right? You can export anything you like, and balance due. Okay, so that's the only two stuff I'd like to export right now. So, but what if I'd like to? I'm sorry, I deleted something wrong. I deleted the PDF file here. It's not delete this file. I should delete this Google Doc. Okay. So this ID is going to be doc get document get ID. I think it's not this ID. This ID is the ID of the PDF original PDF file. So if I select the trash, I'm going to trash that PDF file. So this is going to trash this Google Doc. Okay. Trash the doc file and get the ID of this Google Doc and set the Google Doc to trash. Alright, something wrong I did. So now let's get this folder, right? So if you see, so this is our project. So I'd like to grab all the PDF files from this folder. Alright, so I'd like to give a constant here. called folder name PDFs. So basically it's a folder, so this is a folder name for the PDF files. Okay, in case you have a different folder name, you need to change the value here. Okay, so this is the source folder, source folder name of your PDF files. Okay, so I'd like to write a help function to grab all the files in this PDF folder. Actually, all the IDs of the PDF files. Okay, so let's create a function, get PDF files, and this is going to take a folder name. Okay, folder name. So by default, it's going to be this folder name. So first of all, we need to get this folder, right? And we need to know the current folder. Okay, we need to get the current folder first. So current folder we're going to be. So this is a spreadsheet project. So spreadsheet get active. Const spreadsheet equal to spreadsheet.getActive. So this is going to link to current spreadsheet. Okay, and current folder I'm going to be drive app dot get file by ID spreadsheet dot get ID. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet file, and get the parent. The parent is going to be the parent folder, right? Because we're in this folder, we get a parent, we get this folder. And I'm going to have this next. So this is the current folder, and I like to search the folders by name. Okay, so current folder dot get folders by name. The name is going to be this. So this is going to search all the folders in current folder. Okay, this current folder, I'm going to search all the folders with this name in current folder. So if folders has next, that means we found some folders in current folder with this name, right? So actually, let's do this. If we didn't find any folders with this name, so let's return empty array. Okay, that means we find nothing in this folder. We didn't have a folder with this name. And if we do find some folders with this name, we get this folder. So the folder we're going to be folders next. Okay, so this is the folder, and I like to get all the files in this folder. So const files equal to folder dot get files. I'd like to use this get files by type because I just want to get the PDFs. Okay, so drive app don't have this type here, weird. So this is a file type like the get, and let's create an array for the IDs. Okay, so while files has next, basically I'm going to loop through all of these files. Okay, and IDs dot push files next get ID. Okay, so basically I'm going to push all of these IDs, file IDs, to this array, and finally let's return these IDs. So we can test this function here. Let's try to test it here. Let's do a test function here to test this function. So because I assigned the default folder name here, so I don't need to place any parameters here. So let's const IDs, and let's console.log this ID. So this is the IDs. Okay, let's give some space here. So let's try to run this test function. Test. I should get 2 IDs for the PDF files because I think I delete the invoice 3. Okay, I think because we added a new API here, which is a spreadsheet app API, so that's why it asks for the authorization again. Okay, so now this is API we need to authorize for the script to use. Okay, so let's stop and try to run this test again. Okay, so this is a typo here, I think. Not Mimi, it's Mimi. Okay, so that's test. I don't know what is this. Iterator has reached the end. If files next, if files has next. While file has next, ID is push files next get ID. That's weird. Okay, so here, this has text. I need to call this function here. Alright, so let's try to do it again. Has next is just a function name, so we need to call this function to validate if this file has next or not. Okay, so right now we get 2 IDs from that folder, from that PDF folder. Okay, so this is actually the ID for the PDF files. Okay, so now we can export the files in this folder to our Google Sheet. Okay, so first step we need to grab a list of IDs, right? So let's const ID is going to be get PDF files. So this is going to get all the PDF files from this folder. Okay, this folder name which we defined here, PDFs. So after we get these IDs, we can do this in a loop. So ID store for each ID. So after we get this, we have this ID. You see, we can get the text. Let's move this line here too. So we get this text from this ID, the PDF file. So we get the text and get const so invoice and balance. So we'd like to get the invoice data, okay, from text. This function is not created yet, so let's create this function. So this function is going to help us to get the text from our get the invoice number and the balance from this text. Okay, so this is going to be the text, going to be a string. So let's do a const lines. Let's do a text.split. And let's console.log these lines. Sorry. And let's return, because we'd like to get the invoice and the balance. So invoice. So the invoice is line number 3, which is the fourth row, and the balance we're going to be the last row, I think. So this is just my method to do this. Okay, so last row length, rows.length, lines.length -1. so it's going to grab the last row. Okay, so let's get rid of this line, and this should bring you to the invoice and balance, and console.log this here, so you will see what we get from this invoice and balance. So let's try to do this export to the sheet function to get to test it. So make sure we get the correct data before we move on to the next step. Okay, so the speed is not very good, I think, because we're using the orc here, the ORC. So if you have a lot of PDF files, it's going to be an issue for you. So as you can see here, so this is the first one. We got the invoice and we got the balance. Okay, so to get the number, as you can see here, we can split this balance with a $sign here, right? Or you can replace this balance due. So let's do it, and let's split or dot replace. So you can have a, or you can use a slice. So multiple way to do that. So if we check how we can slice, so this is the text string. So if you use a slice function, you can get the right. So let's say slice. I need to count this. So basically, I don't know, maybe 10 characters. So if it's 10, it's not a 10, so 11, 12. So basically, this is 14, okay? So if you only need to get the number, you use the slice 14. Alright, so let's try it in our code. And a better way to do that, you can use something like this, I think, which is you can use. So you can use this in your code instead of count them one character by one character. Okay. So this we're going to grab. So if you'd like to keep this symbol here, you can remove it like this. Okay. So this we're going to get the content for us. We get the invoice and the balance. So this is just an example. You can grab all the other informations in that test. Okay. So here, after we get this invoice and the balance, we'd like to keep set up a values array here for the output. Okay, so this is going to be our output. So here we're going to have a header, because this is first row. We have the invoice number, right? Remember, and then we have the balance. So this is the balance, and this is the invoice number, and we can simply output our data here. So let's push these values here. So we're going to add invoice here, because this the first column is the invoice and the second column is the balance, right? And you can output the data to the spreadsheet. So let's const output sheet is equal to spreadsheet app.getActive active sheet. Okay, so this is going to get the active sheet. Okay, because I only have one. You also can use the get sheet by name, so it depends on you. So we have a reference to this output spreadsheet, and let's get the range. So before we output, let's clear the data here and output and get the range. Let's start from the row 1 and the column 1. The number of rows is going to be the length of this values array, okay? And the number of columns is going to be the values first element, which is the row 1 length, basically 1, 2, okay? I'm going to set the values. The values are going to be these output values here. So this is going to output the data to our spreadsheet. Let's try to test it. It's not very fast, I think. Why so slow? It's weird. Let's stop it and try it again. I don't know why it's so slow. The speed is an issue, I think. But if you only to grab not a lot of PDFs, I think you can still use these functions. Okay. All of a sudden, it's kind of you cannot run it. That's weird. It started right now. I don't know what's wrong with this. It could be an issue with my computer. Okay, it took about 10 seconds to do this job. And I got the data from the PDF successfully. Okay, so in this demo, I think I go through to this very detail. Okay, I basically show you how you can do something like this with app script, but you can improve this a little bit. Okay, like you can so you can add a menu here, so you can run this function. So to add a menu, you need to create a function called onOpen. Okay, get the UI of the spreadsheet app, and then you can create a menu. The menu you can call it PDF or something like that. And for me, let's call it LC007. And I'm going to add a function here called export or import PDFs. Import data. So this is going to call this function export to PDF. That's weird. This is import, it's export. So just a name issue, okay. Add this to UI. So you can add this to, where is my open function? So if I reload this page, I should have a menu here. So we can use this button, this function here to import our data from the PDF in this folder. I think Chrome is crashing my computer. So basically, that's almost it for this video. So if you'd like to learn how to code in app script, okay, with app script, you'd like to do some automation in app script, this is I think this is where you can start. Start from small project like this. Okay, you need to learn how to do this kind of stuff, how to do these automations here, step by step. So I'm just showing you an idea to how to solve some problems like converting PDF files to a Google document. So there's something maybe you don't know. So this is just to show you a way, an idea to solve the problems. There might be some other solutions there I don't know. So you need to learn. Okay. So I think that's it for this video, and I think this function is working. All right. And in my preview video, I also added some extra information like the URL to the PDF file. So I think I will leave it as a practice, so you can do it yourself. Okay, you can add extra information. So as you can see, get it here. You can edit it very easily. Okay, so that's it for this video, and I hope you can learn something from this video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.